I have updated this diagram again. I'm going to stick to using this, so it's almost like a to-do list, but with a bit of a visual representation of what I've got going on. I added a new couple of things in here: timer and file system. Something else I'm gonna be one to using quite soon. So what I'm going to do today, before getting started with rendering stuff, I'm going to wrap up threads, memory, timer and file system, because I'm going to want to use them, and I just want to get that bit of legwork done really, so I can start using them. For threads, I'm going to use Windows threads, and in future it could be replaced with anything, because I'll just keep the interface and I could replace what's going on in the engine. So at the moment it's not really it doesn't really matter what thread API that I use in the engine. I just use in Windows because I've used it a lot before and I'm on Windows. File system, I'll probably just use standard C file system. That one could be ported between platforms easily, and then depending on the platform, sometimes you might need to specialize and use the operating system's file system. Timer is, I'm going to get these in because I want to be able to start timing code quite early on, and I like to just have a high resolution timer that I can throw in to time functions and things like that. And I'm gonna write some macros that make it easy to insert timers into the code. It's useful when profiling. Sometimes it depends what you're trying to optimize, but sometimes I like to use my own timers in the code, and then sometimes it's good to use a profiler. And later on in this project I'll be doing more of that to try and get maximum performance out of the game or the engine or whatever. And then memory, I'm gonna use just malloc and free for now, but I'm gonna wrap them up so I could replace them, and I'm also gonna override global new and delete. So I should only be using placement new if I'm going to do any allocations that probably need a new, but I'm going to try and avoid polymorphism and stuff like that as much as possible. So hopefully malloc should be all I need, but I might need some C++ bits later on, for example, for communicating between the game project and the wrapper. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to start just implementing these systems. What I had already done here last night, I just made some empty functions for, that the threads are going to use. So I've got a create and a destroy for a thread, functions to create and destroy mutexes, or lock and unlock them, and the same for semaphores, and that's a mistake, but I'm just going to fill these out, and I've done the same for memory as well, so I'm just going off these as a template. So what I'm doing now is actually just implementing these functions. I'll have to maybe jump about on a bit of reference to see what I need, but hopefully it shouldn't take too long. Instead of actually using a mutex, I'm going to wrap up a critical section in Win32 and call it a mutex, just because critical section's faster. I'm only ever working in a single process environment, so I don't really need to use proper full weight mutex. It might be a bit silly to call it mutex, but some platforms don't have critical section and only have mutex, so my mutex is going to be a lighter weight mutex than a full fat mutex, basically. Another thing to note is how I'm using these structs. So in the header of the thread system, I forward declare a thread, a mutex, and a semaphore struct. The reason this compiles is because in the header, I only ever use pointers to these structs. So that means that compile time, the compiler doesn't need to know the size of this for the header. And then internally in the CPP, the structs get defined and have the size. So the only place I can actually deref the pointer and access its members is from within this CPP file. So what it means is I have to use these functions to create and lock, and I basically get forced to use this API to be able to use mutex or threads from anywhere else really in the game or in the engine. So I just noticed that I got a warning when I tried to return the result from try enter critical section. So I've got a type bool, which is a standard type. I've not redefined it, and this returns a type of bool in capitals. If I return here, then I get a warning, bool forcing value to true or false. I tried doing a cast, but it didn't seem to help. But then what I discovered is that the Win32 bool is type deft as an int. So I'm going to do that in my type defs, so I don't have to get this warning. Now I have filled out memory and threads.cpp, and threads has an implementation of threads create, it has mutex and a semaphore type, and it uses a Windows threads, and memory just uses sort of standard C stuff, malloc free, memset, memcopy, and yeah, for the time being that's fine. I just want to build this interface and start using it, and then I can replace malloc and free with my own allocator, or I could malloc a heap up front and then allocate into that or whatever. Just gives me the flexibility to do this. So I'm going to tick those guys off here, and then I'll just get on with fleshing out the timer and the file system. I changed them to yellow for things that are in progress. These memory and threads need to be tested, and I need to use them first. The entry point of the window for now are pretty much done. So next I'll get onto timer and file system, and then once I've got those, I should be able to start up a thread with the game running in it. I'll have a thread which will have the renderer and the present and window system kind of running in it. And then what I'll do, I'll use the threads API to start spawning threads and doing jobs, and being able to write a command buffer system for the renderer.